Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Coming live from 1950 South Shepherd. I have a very, 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 very special guest on today. Uh, would you like to introduce yourself? Like, I'm sure we all know who you are.
Yeah. Ron Cawley, Shiner Epo tribal member, but I'm also Kiowa and Sioux. And I'm in long term recovery. I have over 25 years clean and sober.
Ha, Matakiyase. Ha.
Mm.
Mm. Well, well, Mr. Colley, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you did today?
We went up to Oklahoma City behind the Second Chance thrift store, and we set up a booth and a table and a canopy, a really nice canopy, by the way. And we handed out harm reduction products, maybe help that area, that community area right there. Maybe the Narcan that we handed out might actually save somebody's life. Gave out instructions how to use it and different things like that. We've got information cards. People were taking some of the cards for information, and that's how we spent part of our morning and part of our afternoon.
Well, I appreciate what Tor is able to do out in the community. If you're not familiar with harm reduction, it's life saving products that help create safety measures for people that are in substance use disorder. So it's like I the way I like to think of it is all the products that we give out. Um, even if it just saves one person, from maybe it stops them from contracting a disease. Maybe it helps them understand that there are people who are out here that care about them until they're able to care about themselves. So, I appreciate, just for getting the invite, being able to show what, like to me, that's frontline work right there. You know, just trying to humanize the unhoused population. It means a lot to me because it makes me think about I wasn't too far away from having to live that life. So it feels good. It just feels good to be able to just treat them as a person. And able to connect with them on a level that I know that no normie can go out there and pull that off, right?
Right.
I mean, you can fake the funk, but until you've learned to overcome those things, I mean, I feel like that's where our role as peers comes in. So I like what we're able to do, and I enjoy just being able to make a difference. I mean, that to me, it's all about harm reduction. Like that's one of the things that we highlight in the products that we give away, and harm reduction comes in many forms. The easiest way that I heard harm reduction, like a good like a good example, is putting on a seatbelt whenever you get in the car. That's harm reduction. Like it's something that you have to do, so you're being as safe as you can while you do it. The thought of harm reduction is basically along those same lines. So
Yeah. Some of the products that we gave out, um, even if that person doesn't use them,
yeah,
they may give them to somebody that could use them. So with those products out there in the community, somebody's going to use them at some
Yeah.
point in time. So it's rather, I would just soon they have them and not need them as to need them and not have them.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
That's a great point. We depend a lot on secondhand distribution. Like I was telling a guy today. Because even like amongst the unhoused population, they'll come up to our table and like, man, I don't do that. I don't need that stuff. I'm like, well, just think about it. You're in contact with a lot of the people that do need these products, and they're probably not going to be here today. You can help us out by handing these products off to the people that can benefit from them. So I look forward to just being able to share harm reduction. Even in that sense. Even in a way that that benefits those that suffer in silence. So I understand how they may perceive us. I know if I was in my addiction, I wouldn't show up to any place like that. I wouldn't. You would. Like.
You're right. Yeah.
So I mean, we depend. We depend on making those relationships and building up. Just the exposure. To harm reduction. Like I think it does a lot. I think it does a lot for the people in that community. So I mean, I enjoy spending my Tuesdays, and like I was saying earlier, whatever harm reduction has to look like for a person, it may look different from one person to the next. But I mean, as long as we got community support, we got community partnerships that they see what we're trying to do, and they support us. So that feels great. I mean, to know that we're all on the same team, we're all trying to accomplish the same thing, and teaching, like it's teaching me something about addiction that it helps me look at it from a different angle. So I mean, it helps me just as much as I feel like it helps them too. So yeah, I love the fact that we're able to provide those services and just to be included. Like just to be included. And they had a great like they had mobile showers and a mobile laundromat.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing. If you haven't heard of the organization called Be Heard, I mean they're doing great work here and in Oklahoma City. And there was a third city too. Was it Lawton?
It was Tulsa.
Oh, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa. They go back and forth. And it's an organization that is trying to help out the unhoused population. And I think it's a great service. It's a great ideal. I'm sure they have a schedule that they go through week by week. But I mean, that's amazing work. So big shout out to Be Heard. I mean that's amazing.
Can I give a shout out really quick?
No, and nah, go ahead.
Yeah, you had a chance to get on here and you didn't.
No, I just wanted to shout them out as well because seeing today, getting to go out there and see them allow people to take showers, not only take showers, but like get their clothes washed and
Yeah.
leave there with clean clothes, like just how much of a blessing that must feel like to them.
For sure.
And from my understanding, they're like a newer organization, right?
Yeah, they just kicked off like last week.
Yeah, and so they have if you follow their Facebook page, they have times when they'll be showing up in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa over the next week. But that was just a really cool thing to see.
It was.
People out there, and it was overall a good day. The weather was
Yeah.
nice, so there was more people that we got to see and connect with and
So yeah,
hang out
Yeah,
with.
like
So,
Robbie and Aaron,
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
were out there. They were all zooming around all over.
yeah,
know.
busy bees.
And it's great to see that they're out there like every Tuesday.
Yeah,
This is not just a once in a month thing. This is
every week.
an every week thing, and which is really helps that community. Those unhoused people because
Mhm.
a lot of places will show up and then not come back until next month.
Yeah,
2 weeks later. This is like every Tuesday. So
every Tuesday.
you can depend on being able to go down there and get one of your basic needs fulfilled.
Definitely. And they're also they're doing testing too. As if you haven't heard, STIs and AIDS are they're there's an outbreak. Like it's not. I would hate to call it an outbreak, but it's there's a rise in
Yeah.
positives, and it's affecting, the Native American population, but more than anything, the substance use population. And that it's I completely get it. We're trying to provide these condoms, these Plan Bs, all these harm reduction products. We don't want a bad choice to be like a death sentence. So I think it's very important that everyone is aware, and like these ain't like dirty people that like no way, they're human beings. And as I see addiction, it's not a black thing, a white thing, a native thing, a Mexican, like it's none of those things. It's a human problem. So it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good, to just to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, just trying to make a difference. And that's really, really all, like that's really all we can do.
Well, just like you were saying, addiction doesn't have any color
Yeah,
boundaries. So, a solution or parts of the solution shouldn't have any color boundaries either.
definitely. Addiction does not discriminate. So do we have any comments?
Yes. Drew Wilson says,
Hey,
"Good
brother.
afternoon, gentlemen."
Good afternoon, brother.
Janelle Garcia says, "Janelle from New Mexico, 203 days."
Hey, all right, all right.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you for sharing that with us, Janelle.
And Possum Fletcher says, "Hey, Ron."
Hey, possum. Hey,
Awesome. Hang
that's
in
the
there,
brother.
bud.
Yeah, that's the brother right there.
He says, "Good to hear y'all this late in the day."
I know, right?
And Anessa says, "Hi, guys."
Hey, and Nessa comes out there with us every week.
Yeah.
She comes and does some service work. And we appreciate her. We really do. We really appreciate Anessa. So thank you, sis. Thank you for coming out and sweating it out with us.
So that's what we have for comments. Y'all ready for this meditation?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you feel like reading it for us, Miss Escott.
Let's see. All right, spring meditations. Today is June 10th. Oh, let me put it up here for you guys real quick. All right. Each day, whatever I am doing, I am always praying and thinking of God. Thomas Yellowtail Crow. Have you ever tried going through your day and carrying on a conversation with the Creator? Many of our elders live in prayer. They talk to the Creator like Creator is their best friend. It is easiest to do this if we pray in the morning and ask the Great Spirit to direct our thinking. When the Creator is involved in guiding our lives, we will have less stress, anxiety, and tension. Maybe this is something we would like to try today. Oh Creator, look at the sun. How beautiful you have made it. Oh, look at this child. Isn't she beautiful? Well, Creator, I'm not sure how I should do this task. What do you think? This person is starting to irritate me. I need your help to redirect my thinking. Thanks for returning me to a peaceful mind. Remember, the Creator also has a sense of humor. Grandfather, grandmother, let me walk in my prayer.
Wow. Would you like to go first, Mr. Colley?
Well, some people have a ritual of praying in the morning and praying at night, to the Creator or the God of their understanding.
Mhm.
But for me, it's any time of day. Help me get through this moment this afternoon. Help me get through, whatever I'm going through, and it might just be 5 minutes of dealing with somebody that's, rude and disrespectful, but help me to bite my tongue and help me to move on, so it's just great. You have a ritual. You're going to do it every morning, every night, but for me, it's anytime, anywhere, driving to work in my truck, and, driving home, decompressing, um, just any time really, so keeping that close contact with the Creator really keeps my feet on the ground, and keeps me grounded, to remember that there's something more powerful out there than myself, which is, really ego deflation, and sometimes I can inflate my own ego, but when you get humble and get quiet, talk to the Creator, there's no more ego there. It's gone. He'll deflate it for you. But anytime, anywhere, whenever you need to talk to somebody, he's there listening. So go ahead and throw one up and see what happens.
Thank you, Mr. Colley. You know, I think this, it ties right into kind of a situation that I had yesterday. Um, like my old behaviors, they showed up. I got mad first, because I felt like it was that important that I insert my, my care, my love, and it was weird because I felt like that's how I had to handle that. Like I, instead of being the loving and caring person that I pray to be, and like I got to hear about how bad of a person I was. I got to hear about the bad person that I used to be. And which I completely agree with. I was that person. I was that parent. I was that, that guy that you could not lean on. I completely understand that, and I hold myself accountable for that today. I can admit my faults, and I understand like where my shortcomings are. But like yesterday, it it happened to do with something that I have no control over. But I felt like I had to insert my opinion, and maybe take action in a way that I don't know, what positives would have came out of that. But it was a situation where I felt like one of my family members would be in trouble, like they would be in like a dangerous situation, and I felt like I had to put a stop to that right then and there. But and then I get the backlash from that. I'm of course, I'm that person that isn't scared to say the truth to somebody. When I know it's important, and it came off as unloving. It came off as if I didn't care. When I was trying to accomplish the complete opposite. But I got the opportunity to go sweat last night, and it helped me understand that prayer is the most powerful tool that I have today. Like if I've learned anything through my recovery, it's how important my connection and my relationship to the Creator is today. Like I'm able to be present today. I'm able to be accountable for me and my actions. I'm able to set boundaries, and I'm able to stick to them. I'm able to you know uh love a person until they learn how to love themselves. Even if it seems like I'm being hard-headed about it. And what I got to experience yesterday, then the sweat came up, and it was like me and my family member, we were having words back and forth, and they were defending themselves, which made no sense at all for the problem that they were having. And it, it it was like that sweat was right in time. I got to go in there. I got to ground myself on the ground. I got to give thanks to the Creator for allowing that ceremony to happen. And I got called on to pray, and I shed some tears. I had some sage in my hand, and I kind of like whenever I was praying and I got through saying, crying, and saying what I had to say, and leaving all my problems there with them grandfathers. Like I had to understand that, like, that's how I believe today. There's no more action that I need to take on the matter. I'm able to say my prayer, and completely have faith in Mahio that he's going to do whatever he needs to do to make things right. Not what I think is right,
Yeah.
but what he knows is right. For that person and their situation. So I kind of like took that sage and I just kind of ran it down my body, from my head all the way down to my legs, and I kind of like I was leaving the way all the bad feelings, all the anger, the fear, the shame and the guilt, that came with that situation. I asked the creator to just, take it from me, and I left it there with the grandfathers. And I did feel better. But at the same time, I felt like it took so much from me.
Yeah.
Like I was beat. Like after that round, like I had to go outside and lay down, like rolling around in the chiggers, like like it really got me. And I had to lay down for the fourth round. And I never do that. Like I've always been able to, but I felt like that's how much of that I was holding on to.
Yeah.
That's how much energy I was putting into these negative feelings. So, it helped me realize, and I say this all the time, I'm what I've learned today is I've learned to say these prayers, and I've learned to sit down inside of my prayer and allow the creator to come and do his work. That's one of my problems. That's one of Barry's number one problems is I like to get in front of the creator and I like to give my opinion. I like to give how it makes, what makes me feel better. I don't like to allow him to do what he needs to do.
Yep.
So that's a part of my recovery that I'm realizing today is that I don't always need to say something. I don't always need to feed into those negative feelings. I'm able to recognize those things today. And that is like just that alone by itself is a blessing. I'm able to recognize when these things are happening in my life, and for sure I'm allowing the creator, like I felt good, when I crawled out of that sweat after that fourth round. Yeah, even though I laid down that fourth round. But like it made me realize like that's how much of my life that I'm giving to these things.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I have a place to go where I can release these things. Where I can give them to the creators. Those things are made, they're rock solid, like I feel like they're built for that. That's why they're here. And when I think about where those rocks came from and how long ago they were formed, maybe millions, I don't know, maybe thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, I don't know, but I know that the creator knew back then that that's what these rocks were going to be used for. Like to think that he was already thinking about us back then. Like when that thought comes across my head, man, it just makes me grateful, to be Cheyenne. It makes me grateful to have that connection with Mother Earth. It makes me grateful for, from the bugs, all the way to the little animals, the little four-legged, all the way to the winged, to the fish people. Like it just helps me realize things on a whole nother level. And I'm thankful for that today, and I have all the faith in the world that he's going to do what needs to be done for a solution to be found in for that situation. And I don't wish anything bad on anybody. I was honest about some things, and maybe there's a better way I could have handled that, but it wasn't only me that was concerned. It was, some other family members. They're the ones that brought it to my attention and they wanted me to say something, and I did, like, but then I thought, later on, like there was a better way to go about that. But when it comes to when it comes to the innocent being involved, I can't find an excuse for that. And they kept giving me one. So yeah, I could have done better, but at the same time, I gave it to the creator. I feel good. I feel good about leaving those things there,
Letting it go.
letting it go. I have complete faith. Like I always say, the creator brought me this far. I don't, like I would, if this creator thing isn't real, then I'm a dead man, right? But the my quality of life has happened like in a way that I did not expect. And I have maybe the bare minimum, but that's okay. I seen the unhoused population, and it made me grateful, for a little bit that I do have. And it makes me realize how easy it is to go right back to that. I'm not too far away from that, but the creator has given me grace. And I'm allowed to life doesn't get perfect because Barry got sober, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things I was going to bring up is, we're not perfect and we're not near perfect and we're never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
The transformation from old self to new self is going to take time.
Yeah, it's
Think,
painful.
think about what you were
Sometimes
doing.
painful.
Think about what you were doing when you were 3 years old. You were barely walking, toddling around, Well, that's where you're at in your recovery. You're 3 years old in your recovery.
Yeah.
So, of course you're going to stumble. Of course you're going to fall. Those things are to be expected, and the people that expect Barry to be perfect because he's clean and sober, those are, unrealistic
Yeah. Fall
expectations,
short every day.
and they're being applied to you. But, we go back to the seventh step, humbly ask him to remove our
Yeah,
shortcomings,
our defects.
So, we have to do that, and we have to like try to learn and grow, I mean, the red road to recovery is not, it's got potholes and it's got rocks in it,
Yeah.
and we're gonna trip and we're gonna stumble. But the great thing about it, the most beautiful thing about that is we're not alone. And when we reach over and we're about to stumble, somebody grabs us and pulls us
Yeah.
up and keeps us from falling flat on our face and tells us, hey, we need to do this a little differently. So even after 25 years clean and sober, I'm still learning, and I learned a lot of patience from my son. I learned a lot of patience from him, and that's one of the things I prayed for, please show me how to be patient. Okay, well, here's a baby. You learn how to be patient with this baby. And I'm like, what? But he is so filtered that he just won't say anything. He was like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, And me, I'm the opposite side of that coin. I just blurted out and da 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 da, and maybe you should look at your actions and what you did to cause
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
that's me.
Fault finding.
And he's
Yeah.
he's more empathetic. Like, well, I'm sorry you're going through that. What can I do to help? And I'm like, I'm just the opposite.
Yeah.
But I'm learning. I'm learning a little
Yeah.
bit on how to bite my tongue a little bit and how to be a little more caring about it. And so I'm still learning from him. He's almost 28, and I'll be 59 this year, and I'm still learning from him, and
Yeah.
still learning from my wife, and she knows how to like put things in perspective for me when I kind of get a little off the beaten path a little bit. She'll say something that brings me right back to reality, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I'm sure you say that a lot.
after almost 33 years,
Yeah.
I kind of listen to her a little bit every now and then, I still don't know what she wants, but I listen to her, but it's there's a lot of support out there, and even when even when you stumble and trip or something like that, even if you do fall flat on your face, there's people around you
Yeah.
picking you
Pick
up.
you up. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're all still learning and growing, and one of the ways we do that is getting out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
I've never been up to Oklahoma City and done that like
Yeah,
that. you
yeah.
know.
That's only my second or third time.
Yeah, that's like completely out of my comfort zone,
Yeah.
but it's great because I learned a little bit,
Mhm.
Next time I go, I'll learn a little more.
Yeah,
So
that's how it goes.
that's how we do it.
Do we have any comments? Because I've seen a couple big comments
I
come
know,
across.
and then
I want to hear what they have
I
to
wrote a
say.
book.
Earl Plumley says,
Hey.
"Good afternoon, brother, and everybody out there."
Hey, I hope you're having a good week up there, brother. Been keeping up with you. Appreciate what you do, brother.
Josh Pickett says, "Stongo." Did I say
Stongo,
that right?
Stongo,
Yeah.
Brother,
Stongo.
to be sober.
Hey, appreciate you, Josh.
Charlene says, "Hey, yo, beautiful day here in Arapahoe, Wyoming.
Oh,
Asking for
hey.
prayers for Chief Willie family.
Yeah,
Not
for
always
sure.
easy to lift up the true spirit of our loved ones, but when so many loved him and feel grief in our own ways, it's like weaving together the shared pieces of so many of us here. Oh, so many of us here can contribute to healing. Let's remember that, especially during the moving on of a very spiritually sound individual."
Definitely. Hey, Chief was a hell of a guy, man. He was a good brother to have, man. A lot of people are gonna miss Chief, and a lot of people, he touched a lot of people's lives. Prayers going up for the family and everyone affected by that. I know he had kids. I know there's a lot of people that loved him. So, I'm glad that I'm glad that you were able to share that with us, sis.
Thank you for sharing. Rachel says, "Hello, the waving hands."
Hey, Rach.
Natalie Harjo says, "This hit
Uh-oh.
me pretty hard today, too. Like, this has been a rough week or two, and this reading reminded me of the prayers I left in sweat. Relinquishing daily or control daily. It's so hard. I prayed with all my might last night, and today has been a blessing in the best way. Prayer has worked for me when I am serious about my relationship with Creator."
Definitely.
Yes.
It's a great tool to have.
Thank you, Nat.
Thank you for sharing that.
Joshua Pickett says, "Wise words." Frida says, "Good afternoon, brothers."
Good
Two
afternoon,
fifths in
sister.
one.
Rita.
Laughter, good medicine. Everything happens for a reason. What do I need to learn and see positively, Father God, in any situation? Thank you for your wisdom. Prayers."
Thank you for sharing that, sis.
Nat says, Josiah Hugs.
Yeah. More hugs, no drugs.
"Do I need to put on my clown shoes and join the circus, or do I sit back and watch the show? I don't always have to insert myself and react. I have to let go and trust the blessings that are mine. In His will, living life by life's terms, not always comfortable, but always a blessing."
Definitely.
Yeah.
That was a good.
Not always
Yeah.
comfortable.
Do
Yeah.
I be another buzzer on the bus? I like the way you put that.
Frida said, "I did that, brother, in the last round. Last time I was in sweat, I touched another earth and gave her all that energy, whether it was positive or negative to her, and I collected her renewed energy. So maybe I refreshed to help others. What is my cup filled with when someone bumps into me, and what will I spill out? Positive. I love y'all. I hope."
Oh, thank you for sharing that, sis. We appreciate you.
I like that,
Yeah, that's good.
Frida.
And that's one thing about the work that we do is we're always pouring into somebody else's cup. Like that's a constant. And then sometimes I used to let that drain me. I taught myself how to stop myself from burning out. Kind of understanding that this isn't always about me. You know what I mean? Like why was I taking things so personal? When somebody would relapse, oh man, it was like I failed, like there's so many things, negative things that I let affect me, but I never looked at the positive. There's so many positives. I wake up in gratitude. That's one of my, every day, I wake up in gratitude. And it just gives me a feeling, that I don't know, grateful, thankful, and appreciative. Like when I wake up in that state of mind, then it kind of carries me throughout the day. So, a lot of great comments, a lot of good words, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all for just interacting with us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
That's what I tell you. Like I had a friend, and he was in recovery, and he'd do 2 or 3 years. He'd relapse a couple of weeks, and he'd get back in recovery, and then he'd go 4 years. Then he'd relapse. Then he'd stay relapse a couple of weeks, a month. Then he'd get back in recovery. He'd go 6 years, and 2 years. And my son bought me a new phone for Father's Day a couple of years back, so I called him, and he's going, "Who is this?" And I was like, "This is Ron." He goes, "Oh, hey." He goes, "Not being able to keep the same phone number is a telltale sign of unmanageability."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I've managed to keep 24 years clean and sober consecutive. You know what consecutive means?" And he was like, "Yeah, Ron, I know what consecutive means. You should try it, man. But people look at us like we're supposed to be perfect. We're supposed to be faultless and stuff, But that was just one of those things that are just, sometimes you've got to tell somebody the hard, cold truth about something in order to make them see what they need to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's who I tried to be yesterday.
And we're those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I've like I can be honest. That's one part of my recovery is that I can be honest. It seemed like everybody else that was around this family member, and I'm not sitting here pointing any fingers or trying to make anybody feel bad, but it's like, like there's a real cut and dry line between either you're part of the problem or you're part of, the addiction, or you're part of the solution or you're part of the problem. You can't walk on both sides, and then expect good things to happen.
Straddle the fence.
Yeah, I mean, so it's definitely a battle, but it's not something that I feel like I'm facing alone. Like it the more and more I tried to be honest, the more and more it turned into like a tongue lashing. You know what I mean? Like they were thinking of like more hateful stuff to say, instead of like worrying about what the actual problem was. So I mean, you live and learn. I get it. Do I feel like I need to, now I'm starting to realize like I don't always need to react. Not everything deserves my reaction. But it was just a situation where I felt like I had to insert, the right thing. What's the right thing to do in this situation when, an innocent person is involved? Some of that has nothing to do with what you do outside of that house, and then you're trying to include the innocent into that world, and it just kind of blew my mind, and I should probably apologize, but at the same time, I also believe in what I said,
Well, it sounds like a 10 step,
Yeah.
We continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it.
Yeah.
And that's something I do every night. I look back on my day and figure out did I harm anyone? Did I, And sometimes I say things and not realize I said it, but I remember the facial expression on somebody's face, and I think back, well, why were they looking at me like that? Oh, because you told them. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes I don't remember the exact incident, but I remember the surrounding, what was happening around it. Oh,
The reaction.
Yeah. Oh, no wonder they were looking at me like their eyebrows all down, and and so. But I don't know. I wish I was perfect, but I'm not.
Yeah. I'm far from it. Very far from it. So hopefully soon we can have Miss Shanae come on here soon. We're trying to figure out a day she can make her appearance. Hopefully we can schedule it soon.
Mhm.
Well, isn't
You know,
tomorrow
uh,
Women's Wednesday?
I mean, tomorrow is Women's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Shanae, I'm excited for you. I believe in you, Shayna.
Newest member
Yeah,
of
she's the
our
newest
team.
member. The final
The newest and
Mhm.
final.
destination.
She took the last slot, and she's a go-getter.
Yeah,
She really is. She don't like to sit idle. She wants to go do something, and it's always productive in some way, and she's a miracle that's not done making yet. Her
yeah,
miracle is still happening,
that's awesome.
and I watch it, and I get to work with her, so it's. But you talk about honesty. She's like, really honest too, And
Super
one time I
honest.
was mowing, and at our old job, and she told me, she says, I want to ask you a question, and it might hurt your feelings, but I don't really care, so I'm gonna ask you anyway. Do you wear your glasses when you mow? And I was like, what? No, I don't. Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, you missed a whole strip over there. But that personality right there. I mean, it's so funny and down to earth and real.
Yeah,
That it just it's kind of like a little magnet. You kind of attracted to like, I want to hang out with Shayna some more, I mean, she's always but she's in recovery, and she's doing great,
yeah, for sure,
you know.
for sure.
I'm
I
glad she's
believe in her.
here. Our first day, she came in. I was like, man, I'm so glad you're here, because I know whatever goals that we set out there, and we're going to accomplish them.
For sure, definitely. So
Partner now. Awesome.
hopefully soon, very very soon, like tomorrow. We told her go ahead, get all dolled up, and make your appearance, get your head did, whatever it takes to make you feel better. But I think people need to hear her story.
Mhm.
Once what got me comfortable about doing this is realizing that this isn't about me. I talk about me, my experience, strength, and hope, but it's not. Like it's to help those that are suffering in silence.
But I told Shayna when I come up here and did my job interview, and it went right on to a podcast right after that, and
Yeah,
I was doing that before I applied for
yeah, I was, and that's kind of pushing you out there on the highway, and say get going, but
yeah,
um,
taking your training wheels off.
yeah, definitely.
yeah. Took the training
But
wheels right off.
everybody's not me, but one of the things that made it really comfortable is when you walk in here and you come up the steps and you walk in here, everybody's like, hey, hey, it's man, this is like one of the best teams that I've ever come across.
Yeah,
Not just worked with, but come across.
yeah,
Everybody's trying to help each other out. Oh, you guys need this down in Clinton. Oh, we're here to grab this. Okay, we're gonna get you this. We're gonna, everybody's trying to help each other. And it's all about team success and not individual
yeah,
success. Nobody has an individual agenda here. We have a team agenda. Look, this is what we're going to do on Tuesday. This is what we're going to do Wednesday morning. And we're all in. And
yeah, for sure.
but not everybody's willing to take that leap that early.
Yeah,
Not everybody's willing.
yeah,
I feel like she would do great. She'd be
Yeah.
fine. I feel like
yeah.
she'd be
Give
great.
yourself a chance, Shannon.
Yeah, but
When
when she's ready,
Mhm.
she will.
And we'll
So
be here. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We'll be here
Yeah,
when
for
she's
sure.
ready.
Whenever
I,
she's ready, I encourage her, but I'm not going to pressure her anymore. But I like to
I'll
encourage,
pressure.
inspire, and motivate. And if she wants to, she wants to, and if she don't, well, there's next week. Maybe
Yeah, there's
maybe
always
next
tomorrow.
week is her
Yeah,
day.
it's always
So
tomorrow.
so
Her time's coming.
we'll just keep coming up here every day until she gets on there, you know.
Yeah, no pressure. No pressure at all.
Every day we'll just keep coming up here, and and finally she'll get tired of driving up here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Let's get this over with.
Yeah.
Do we have any more comments, Tatum?
Yes. Ryan Summers.
Oh, hey.
Just some emojis.
Hey, Ryan came all the way from Tulsa to come and sweat. Him and Levi Harjo. So they brought them brother. My brother Ryan, man, he's got some good medicine, man. He's like you can feel that energy, that positive energy, when you're around him. And he's just one of those. He's deep into Wellbriety. He leads a circle up there in Tulsa. Yeah, I've been to a couple of meetings up there, and they were very, very welcoming, and it felt good to sit next to a Wellbriety brother and pray. Like there I don't know, like there's power in that. And he came all the way from Tulsa. Like so I'm very appreciative of Ryan and the work that he does up there in the Tulsa area. Indians for Sobriety. They're a good group, man, and he does great work. So, big shout out to my big brother Ryan, man. He's a good one. He's a good brother right there.
Vinny Von Miller says, "Good afternoon, family. Grateful for another spring. Talk about the fish people, please."
Oh, the fish people. From my understanding, there's how we're living up here. Like that's how they're living down there. I mean, from what I was told, like water is life, right? Nothing lives without water. So I think that they play a very important role in how this world is surviving. Like I think they have a lot to do with the blessings that water brings. That good medicine that nothing can live without it, right? So from my understanding, they're just as important as the four-legged and the winged. Just an equal part. They play an equal part in what we do up here on land. They have a whole world down there. So that's all I really understand about water people.
Yeah. Oh, it takes water to make coffee. So
Yeah, very, very blessed.
Charlene says, "I like to remind myself of how much trouble I'd be in if I was the decision maker of all of this
Oh man,
of life.
I
When it hurts, it still feels good because we are that much more learned within. I love being Arapaho."
definitely. I tried to make these decisions, right? I tried it my way, and I ended up strung out and drunk every day.
your best thinking got you there, didn't it?
My best thinking. That's what my best thinking did. Me making all the decisions.
Well, I got tired of making decisions, and that's where Ruth came in.
Shout out to Miss Bear.
Hey, she's actually next on the comment.
Yes.
She said, "I got it on video. I'm right. No, for real. A lot of good words today. Thanks for sharing. Like I said, always talk to him like a friend. He's always there."
Oh, yeah, for sure. We appreciate you, Aunt Ruth, putting up with this guy, y'all, to me, y'all's definitely a power couple, y'all have good medicine, and I feel blessed, that we get to build that relationship, and I know y'all are the type that, we can lean on. So I just appreciate who you and Aunt Ruth are. Means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Means a lot to me.
It took a long time to get where we're at. And we butt heads on a lot of things, and we don't see eye to eye on so many things. And if we're going somewhere in the city, I've got one idea which way to go, but we're not going that way. We're going the way she's going to turn and she's going to go.
We know she's right.
Which is like 6 one way, half a dozen the other way. You're gonna get to the same spot,
Yeah.
It's just her eggs are still whole and mine are scrambled, but it's still 6 eggs,
I like the way you put that. So, in other words, you're always right. Yeah.
But I asked her a question not long ago. I said, if a woman is always right and a man is always wrong, when a man tells a woman she's right, isn't he wrong?
It's a great point.
Yeah.
You don't catch it when you get home. Yeah.
I'm on my own for supper,
Yeah. Grilled cheese.
They'll eat and give the leftovers to the dogs, and I'll come
Steaks,
home.
yeah.
I'll come home and have to make some ramen noodles or something, and it won't be a clean bowl. I'll have to wash out a bowl, and
Well, that's good. I like.
Ruth is real caring and real loving.
She
person.
is.
She really is, and she just doesn't care about her immediate family or extended family or coworkers. She cares about everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
And there's times where I seen an elderly woman come in and try to pay for $10 in gas, and her card wouldn't work. So, Ruth pulled $10 out of her own pocket and paid for that gas. And that woman was from out of town, so we're not going to see her again. But
Yeah.
and we don't, we didn't never expect it back. But that's it. That's the kind of thing Ruth would do. Me, I'd be like, yeah, I got $10. Man, that's a nice necklace you got on.
Yeah. We're gonna barter. Yeah.
My wife would like that. That's me. But Ruth is like, here, I'll take care of it. And that's just, she's always been that way, and she's always had that kind of heart. And I tease her a lot. And I give her a hard time, and she'll say, I'm cold, and I'm going, that's them icicles hanging off that cold black heart. And you better shut up. But it's just clowning. We clown each other all the time about anything.
Yeah, you got it.
And we're not afraid to put each other in check. We're not afraid to put each other in check, and you check your behavior. Maybe that's not the right thing to say. Well, you don't see it from their point of view. We're able to communicate like that now, which was never the case in our addiction.
Yeah,
We couldn't
definitely.
communicate. Well, screaming and yelling was our means of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthy relationships are not like shown a lot, you know what I mean? And so like for you guys to have that is pretty special for people,
It
for
is.
younger people to see,
Definitely.
because a lot of people just don't grow up seeing healthy forms of relationships.
I know that's right.
love or anything. So yeah, that's really special. Mary Faye says, asking for some uplifting prayers, brothers and sisters. God knows my heart and hears my cries. Prayers for the struggling and recovering addict and alcoholic. And thank you for reminding to see positives in all situations.
Thank you, sister. Thank you for sharing that with us. And, always, always feel like that's part of my prayer life. Is I when I go sweat, that's one of my prayers is that, they find that doorway. They find a way to come into that lodge, or, just trying to remember them, as it's part of my everyday prayer life. And I feel like, it's a gift because, it's only been 4 years, since I was there, and that's I don't want to call it like a mission, like this is something that I have to do, but it's something that I want to do. I always see the good in everybody, and I feel like I treat everybody the same, so that's, thank you for sharing that with us today, sis.
Mariah M says, I am from Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Hey.
469 days of sobriety.
Wow.
Right.
Hey.
Meth, and I'm trying to be the best mom for my kids.
That's amazing.
That's
we appreciate that. We really,
a
really
miracle.
do.
They're happening everywhere, every day.
As
Everywhere.
a mother, like, just don't forget to put yourself and your recovery first.
Yes, always got to
If
come
you can't
first.
do that, then it's really hard to be a good mom and a good human being, you know. But thank you for sharing that, and congratulations.
Yes, that means a lot to us. I mean, our like I always say, our people need to see that this thing works. Our people need to see that there is a solution. Our people need to see that we do recover. That's why we believe in recovering out loud. That's part of why we do this podcast. This part of why we're not afraid. To get on here and get vulnerable every day. Like it's just I look forward to it. Actually, give me a mic and I won't shut the hell up.
Yeah, yeah. We found out. Yeah, you be here by yourself doing
Yeah,
podcasts.
I be here all about, and there'll be a whole. As soon as I turn everything on, everybody gets up and walks out. Like,
Yeah,
well,
but yeah, I know what you were saying though. But like, early on in my recovery, after a few years, I decided I didn't need my anonymity anymore. And I decided to strip away my anonymity. And I'm not saying the only thing I'm really saying was, I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict. This is what my life was like before.
Yeah.
This is how I got clean and sober. This
definitely.
is what my life is like today. Maybe the way I did it or some things that I did are going to help you to keep it going or to get started or reinforce what you got going already. So I just feel like I don't need my anonymity anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like you. I'll speak out anywhere.
Yeah,
Anytime anybody wants to says something about recovery or anything, I'm willing to have one of those conversations that we need to have. So
yeah. I mean, like it's always. I don't care if you got 100 years or you got one day. I want to know what helped you make that decision to stay clean just for that day. Even if it is just for that one day. Something had to. Somewhere in there. Something had to give. And I want to know. I want to hear about it. So, thank you for sharing that up there in Sioux Falls.
yeah,
That we appreciate that. We just want to wish you the best in your recovery. You deserve it. We all deserve to be happy.
stay in touch.
Yeah, stay in touch. I mean, that's amazing. I'm very, very happy that you shared that with us today.
Crystal Paul says Narcan I got from you helped save my nephew's life on Friday. Thank you guys.
Oh,
We were just talking about that.
yes.
That's awesome.
Harm reduction.
Yeah, and we didn't do it. The Narcan did it.
Yeah, Creator did it.
Yeah, and we
Mahio did it.
we just put it out there. And that's all we did.
But it feels great. It's a good feeling knowing that, um, that the Creator made a way for that to happen.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I can take credit for a lot of things.
Can't do it.
Like when it's all said and done, that was all God.
Yeah, well, that'd be rather vain of us and conceited.
Yeah, to
know,
think that. Oh well, I'm the
us,
one that packaged that.
Yeah. I'm the one that gave that to you.
You know,
Remember?
But
Come on. Yeah.
yeah, I'm thankful. I'm very thankful that your nephew has, he's still here with us.
Yeah. Maybe he can get into recovery.
Maybe that's what it took. You
that
never
might
know.
be what it took. I've got a family member that died on the table and came back, and she's clean. So
Yeah, sometimes that's just how it has to happen. And so we're thankful that you shared that with us. It gives us motivation to keep trying. If anything, it just motivates me to keep trying.
I'm glad it's free too. It's not
Yeah.
like $30, $40,
$40
or
sometimes.
something, and we have to like charge somebody for it because then nobody would buy it,
Yeah,
So I'm glad it's free,
definitely. Well, order some more. You never know. Order some more. We'll ship it to you.
In our most recent training, we learned about mapping and
Mhm.
how to cover different areas and communities in the best way. And I think that that's important.
For sure. We did opioid response network training last week, and I feel like it's really going to pay off for us. We're going to figure out a system that works for those that don't have access to it. And I feel like that was the most important thing that I got from that training is how do we implement these these products in places that it doesn't exist, because I'm from the country, like it wasn't a lot for me to do out there.
Yeah.
So you kind of having that background, I think it kind of makes me realize like not only would I be helping that community, but maybe even my own family.
We got some guests in the
Yeah.
building. Yeah.
Possum
They can get over
Fletcher
here now.
Says the sobriety movement is strong.
Oh, my rugged aunties just walked in, and they're
God, dog.
my rugged auntie Irene Lime,
God, dog.
Andre. They came in
Man.
tearing in the room for
She
some
flip you off?
cinnamon
Oh,
rolls.
finger.
But yeah, the aunties are up here getting all the cinnamon rolls. Those are $6 a piece.
Yeah.
But do we have any more comments, or you got anything else to share?
Jonathan Colley says gonna get rolled. He said that.
Jonathan Collins.
Scout says good afternoon.
Good
guys."
afternoon, brother.
That's my nephew.
Yeah.
Dorothy says hi, Barry and Ron.
Hey, Dorothy. Glad you could tune in.
Tommy also says it's amazing to find out what happens when you don't give up. You got to thank the creator for all that he does.
Everything. I can't take any credit.
The journey isn't done. I'm still going strong, even with the struggles I've been through.
That's right.
Hey, that's what it's about.
Years and 9 months, he says.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
good.
Thank you for sharing that, man.
Real good.
People need to see that.
Anessa said it's a blessing because I get to do things with real friends and a new sober family.
Hey, always, and that's we appreciate you just coming out, you just showing up. I mean, that means a lot to me. So thank you, sis. Thank you.
Was that the girl I was sitting
Yeah.
next to?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's Nessa.
All right. Hey, Anessa.
She's in recovery, and she wants that to be a part of her service work. So we appreciate you coming out.
She sounds like she's really focused.
She is, man.
Yeah.
I knew her in both stages of her life. And God lit that fire under her. So I mean, it's a great thing to see. It's a great feeling to hear her talk about all these positive things that are happening in her life. And she's about action. That's the
Yeah.
big difference that I see in her, is that she's about action today.
Yeah. Not just standing behind the
Yeah,
podium.
not just waiting on, she's moving. And so, we appreciate what you do, Anessa.
That is all we have for comments.
Must be a good cinnamon roll. She got real quiet. Well, that's all that I really got to say. You got anything you want to share, Ron?
Somebody get her a napkin, a wet wipe or something,
Just got real quiet.
Let's get
It's all
all
happy. Yeah.
all happy.
Well, thank you everybody for the comments.
Oh,
Thank
Aye.
you everybody for interacting. That's always a part of what we do. I always look forward to that part. And seeing all these amazing people, all the miracles that happen. And just sharing that with us. So, like, share, follow. Tell your mammy about us, and we will see you Thursday. It's Women's Wednesday tomorrow, so the ladies will come on. The self-proclaimed harm reduction hotties. And so, yeah, they'll be taking care of you all tomorrow at the regular time, mind you, at the regular time.
what time is that?
We try to do it around 10ish.
10. Okay.
We hate to say that it's going to be at 10 because it'll never happen. But, we try to do it within that time frame. Just today, I don't know. I think Carmelo and Domingo didn't have their makeup lady here, so they didn't get on. today.
Oh, I have
So-
an announcement. If
Go
you
ahead.
have some recovery and you want to come in and chat with me on Women's Wednesday and you're in the local area, please reach out to me.
Yeah, reach out to Miss Tater Tot Escott. We're located here at 1950 South Shepherd in El Reno. If you want to share your experience, strength, and hope, we are inviting you to come and take part. So, that's a great idea. Thank you,
Hmm.
Tater Tot.
The more recovery, the better.
Yeah, definitely. It ain't about us, we like to celebrate everybody. So, but yeah, you heard it straight from Tater Tot, and that's all I got.
I'm good too, man. I better get back to the office and clock out before I start racking up overtime.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow.
Oh.
I hope.